Amazingly, the last but one James Bond film is now 10 years old. Spectre gave us all the traditional Bond tropes and much more on top, and it was great to have so many of you contribute with your thoughts. We need to focus now on Blofeld, I think. We've been skirting around the issue. As we've said, Christoph Waltz, on paper, it's the greatest casting ever. At the time, he'd just done both Tarantino films, the Django Unchained, and also Inglourious Basterds, of course. Won Oscars for both. Unbelievably menacing in Inglourious, and then incredibly charming. Well, incredibly charming in both, but a real different character in many ways in Django. But obviously, thoughts were turning to the Hans Landa character, like, oh, right, we're going to get a nasty, scary guy. And I know what John's going to say in terms of the performance. Go on. So you go on. You kick off the sort of casting and where it could have been and what could have been done, maybe.
On paper, the casting's spot on, but the point I've said it many times before. The point of Inglourious Basterds is that you've got an 18 certificate film there, so you can. The point of his monologues are to build tension for something incredibly brutal and violent to happen, and that film is, when Hans Landa comes on screen, something bad's going to happen, and there's some horrific scenes in that film. But what a perfect film! Yeah. But some horrific scenes. But what they do here is they take the monologues of Hans Landa without the threat.
What about the little drill in the head? I mean, he's dead, isn't he? That's as bad as it gets.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What I find odd is that that's intentional, because there's a bit in it that Bond says,
yeah,
it's better than hearing your talks or something.
Yeah.
Right.
No, the first probe will play with your sight, your hearing, and your balance. Just with the subtlest of manipulations.
We'll get on with it then. Nothing can be as painful as listening to you talk.
What angle are you going for your Blofeld? So you've had the omnipresent Blofeld of the early years. You've had the Commander Chief Blofeld as Pleasance. You've had the physical Blofeld with Savalas. You've had I'm allowed to say campy Blofeld.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
he is. What angle of Blofeld are you going for here? What are you trying to achieve? It's not a criticism of Christoph Waltz, because Christoph Waltz is a terrific actor. It's a criticism of the direction of what they're trying to do with Blofeld. What I find bizarre is that they double down with that same kind of thing in No Time to Die. Like, they carry on with these monologues, but there's even less threat in that film.
It's in prison.
The problem is that you called him Blofeld. That's it. If it was Oberhauser, we could talk about, is this character not massive on him, but him. But when you stick the Blofeld tag, the arch nemesis, the Joker to the Batman, that kind of thing, to this character, he has to come up trumps. And I just don't know what they were getting at.
The first scene, the Spectre boardroom, I know he's not speaking for most of it, but he's still got that menace, hasn't he? They should just see his shadow.
Go on, Tom, do an impression, please.
You know what I'm going to do, what?
Yeah.
Welcome, James.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Welcome, James.
No, I meant. I've got my microphone here.
Yeah.
Don't let me interrupt you.
Don't let me interrupt you.
I thought you were going to do the cuckoo noise, to be fair.
Oh, yeah.
Anywhere.
Well, he's such a memorable.
So memorable, yeah. He's got so many lines.
Cuckoo.
But yeah, I don't. Matt, were we disappointed with him, or I can't really remember at the time? Had we even seen these other films then? I don't know.
Yeah.
We must have.
I'm sure I had, and I think the first mistake that they made, and we've kind of discussed this, is this whole, oh, he's not Blofeld, he's someone called Oberhauser, and I think I've said this before. I think they made the same mistake with that in Star Trek Into Darkness, and I just I don't know what the point is. If you and as you say, like if you make it called Spectre and you've worked your absolute socks off and paid whatever to get the rights back,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh no, the guy who's played a really famous villain before and he's an double Academy Award winning guy isn't actually Blofeld.
Yeah.
I don't why not just say this is Blofeld?
Yeah.
Or, as again I might have done, and maybe even if Christopher Waltz was Blofeld, make him a kind of more background villain for this film and have a more primary villain, someone else, a C or a Hinks or someone else. I know this is a celebration, but the idea of Blofeld also being Bond's kind of stepbrother or whatever, foster brother, it's unforgivable, really. I think, and it's such a shame, and I do wonder if they always think like, what were we thinking?
You probably know that James here lost his parents when he was young. But did you know that it was my father who helped him through this difficult time? Over the course of 2 winters, he taught him to ski, and climb, and hunt. He soothed the wounds of the poor little blue-eyed orphan. Asked me to treat him as a brother. My little brother. They formed quite an attachment.
So, you killed him?
Yes, I did.
And it does take, a bit of the shine off it, because that's always in my mind when I'm watching it. I really struggle to get past it, and he's both Franz Oberhauser and I've changed my name to Ernst Stavro Blofeld, and it's just like, well, what? That doesn't mean anything to Bond, or it's only for the audience, and the cat and everything. And then I don't think they give him an awful lot to work with, particularly. Yeah, they give him these sort of monologues that aren't as good as the Tarantino monologues, because those don't really have a massive place in Bond films, in my opinion. So again, this is Blofeld and Spectre are the biggest missed opportunities in the film Spectre for my money.
Are you honestly saying, Matt, you think Tarantino is a better writer than Purvis and Wade? Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yeah.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Matthew said it there, it's a missed opportunity. I think if they'd have started it with Christoph Waltz's Blofeld, I don't think that would have taken anything away from the film, as knowing that, because we already knew it. It could have probably helped the promotion a little bit. They could have harkened back to the previous Blofelds. But it's a shame, because there's some parts with Spectre in this film that are brilliant. So the meeting, obviously, and there's some serious menace there. He doesn't have to say anything. You can see everyone else is terrified when he walks in. He is in charge. This is the big bad. How they lit it so you couldn't see his face. It works. It works really well. Even when he looks at Bond, he introduces himself. Again, sinister, this is the big bad guy. There's another point as well when he's in the lair towards the end and he's showing Bond the videos of what he's doing, and he's got his tablet, and he presses a button and all the lights go off and everyone stands up and looks towards him. They all come off the computers.
Me. It was all me, James. It's always been me, the author of all your pain. You're a brave woman, my dear.
And it's a really sinister moment, and you think that there are little things in there that work really well, but then it's the filler all around that they've just missed out. That they had some really good ideas, they just didn't execute it that well. And they didn't have to do Brofeld, they call it, don't they? They didn't have to do that. I suppose they had Silver working for MI6 MI6 in the last ones. They couldn't do that again, but you didn't have to have the brother element.
I wonder whether the producers were thinking, well, everyone kind of knows that Christoph Waltz is going to be Blofeld. But there's a twist. He's actually Bond's stepbrother, and that's going to be. I mean, I hope that didn't go through their heads, but. And the fact that Bond doesn't react to any of it, does he? Bond is not interested. And from then on, he doesn't call him Oberhauser. He just calls him Blofeld and just accepts it. So it doesn't really ring true. I quite like the build-up when they're walking around showing the place in Morocco, the layer. There's again another ticking the boxes, like you said, Sam.
Yeah.
The layer is there. We've got like sort of these people who bring them there, but we know, a bit like Scaramanga, that he could kill Bond at any point, but he actually, no, there's more to it. He wants to show him what he's doing, and not just for the personal angle. He wants to make him suffer, and he wants Madeleine to suffer because he filmed, of course, her dad getting killed. And then we hear, there's that rock thing, which of course is a bit silver, isn't it? The speech, that sort of rats thing.
The Kartenhof, the oldest in human possession, the very meteorite which made this crater. Think about it. So many years up there, alone, silent, building momentum until it chose to make its mark on Earth. A huge, unstoppable force.
Except it did stop, didn't it? Right here.
Can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this. All of us here together. A reunion.
To have him built up, only to have him fall almost immediately, twice. Bond escapes immediately, blows the whole thing up, and then it's the same thing again. Absolutely nothing. So he's a very unsuccessful villain because the stuff he's done that's successful is from previous films and off screen. So we hear about stuff, don't we? The votes, those exhilarating voting scenes, Maths in MI6, and I know, but that's I'm not too bothered about that.
But even with that plot side of it, though, that the whole idea that Spectre is it's surveillance and information, you think that was 10 years ago. That is just as relevant now.
Exactly.
As it
I
was.
think it's good.
And they could have really doubled down on that to make it even more sinister. And it was just. And he's said, "Yeah, we listen to everybody. Oh, come on, there's a bit more to this here." They could have fleshed that out a little bit more, and that could have made such a bigger impact.
We could have seen it in action, in a specific scenario. And, if you wanted to make, particularly in modern films, if you wanted to make this villain like a really bad, memorable villain, you don't claim previous losses that Bond has suffered.
Yeah.
You show a new one. Or you show him getting the better of Bond in some way. That's how a modern action film would normally do it.
I quite like the fact that Quantum is part of Spectre. I think that was a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
And that Q sort of, while he's on the ski lift, is doing all this. If you take out that Silver was involved, I think it's absolutely fine. Because of course Mr. White is working for some shadowy organisation. They don't really know who it is. And of course Green is the pawn in that, and essentially Mr. White is Blofeld, really, isn't he? To an extent, for those first two films, you could say, because the main baddies are a bit like you have Largo and Volpe. They're the sort of Mads Mikkelsen and Green, of course, in Quantum. But here, there is a lot going on, isn't there? There's a lot going on in terms of the different plots and the different strands. Another massive plot for Bond is that he's fallen in love with one of the main villain's daughters. So it's home and away, isn't it? It's I know it was the age of cinema where those sort of things were coming in more and more, personal connections, and Bond has always sort of echoed the times, hasn't it, of what's been going on. You could say, but Bourne echoed in the early 2000s, and now we're on to sort of the more melodrama where things are linked, and much like Star Trek Into Darkness, that kind of thing. But Madeleine, now, she's not very well regarded amongst Bond fans, and some people think it's slightly redeemed in No Time to Die.
In Spectre, she came across as a bit of a cold fish. And yet it was, her character did change from No Time to Die. But then when I saw the two films and I sort of watched them side by side, you know, this guy just rocks up out of nowhere and says, I've been sent here by your father, etc. She's not exactly going to be going, oh, hello, darling, and be all over him, is she?
Yeah.
I kill people. Small world, eh?
Where is he?
Your father's dead. 2 days ago.
How do you know?
Because I was there.
Did you kill him?
I didn't have to. He did it himself.
And you came all the way just to tell me this? That my father's dead?
I came to tell you that your life is in danger and I need your help.
So I took her being very, very antagonistic against him. And I thought she played it restrained. I don't think she's restrained. I've seen her in other things. I thought she did play it restrained because it's like, well, I don't want to get to know you because you're just like my father. Like I've come away from him and I don't want to know him. So why would I want to know you? So I didn't have an issue with how she played it. And I suppose if you were to be thinking about it, is that not the type of woman that Bond could fall for? Someone who actually knows his life and knows what he's doing, as opposed to sort of, hiding from the wife, like where you go off and kill 6 people or something.
Yeah, because like Tracy was in that world, wasn't she?
Yes.
With her dad. So she was obviously not going to be impressed by some guy who was trying to save her and all that.
And Vesper had
Madeleine, of
seen it all
course,
close up.
yeah. It is an interesting one, and I always say it's not who is your favourite Bond girl. That's who Bond should end up with. It doesn't mean it's not necessarily the same thing.
Agreed.
And it's the character of Bond. This Bond, would he? But I think one of the problems as well is Eva Green is so well regarded, and rightly so. It's very tough to do another character as memorable and as big whilst you've got all this going on, because yes, she wasn't really in the first half of Casino, but the second half is really, she's the main character alongside Bond, isn't she, by a mile?
Yeah.
So she had an awful lot of screen time and an awful lot of scenes to get the chemistry gradually going, which is done really well. Here, it is quite forced, isn't it? It does happen quite quickly.
Yeah.
And the L word is mentioned while he's been tortured.
I love you.
People can fall in love quickly, it does happen.
On the topic of celebrating Spectre, I've got to say the train scene is fantastic. When she walks down in the dress and Bond's there in the white tuxedo, they both look fantastic. They play that scene. I know it goes back a bit to Vesper on the train, but there is that brief moment where they're sat together and they order a martini. That's a great moment. I really like that.
So I'll have a vodka martini. Dirty.
Like that too.
I like the aspect of he's trying to teach her how to use a gun. She doesn't need to know. She knows what she's doing.
You just point it, you squeeze the trigger, you try not to close your eyes. Please. Try it. I don't have to teach you anything, do I?
And again, in the train scene, you can see that she is capable, because Bond survives because she fires the shot towards Hinks.
Yeah, true.
Ultimately, so that whole sequence is great. I do think that they forced the relationship a little bit, and then just to have, when he gets back to London, she says, "No, I'm out," and off she goes. It's kind of one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the process of celebrating, the train scene's fantastic. But when you got onto Madeleine, John, you put your head in your hands like this. So at the point, I don't know what that means, but
sorry, no,
it just shows.
You're spot on to say in the point of celebrating that you're right. It's a celebration. I think my thing is, I would like Madeleine a lot more if Bond didn't fall in love with her. I think that's my. I don't. As I watch it more these days, I don't dislike Madeleine as a character. in Spectre. I'll leave it there. But I think it's right two-dimensional to just have Bond fall in love with her. Why are they so scared of just having a Bond girl for a film? Why does there have to be all or nothing in its approach? And I struggle with that. And it's too soon from the Vesper situation. So my thing is not a criticism of the character of Madeleine. It's that you are putting Madeleine up against Tracy and Vesper because as Bond's love, and she's not given the time to, or you don't buy into it like you do theirs because there's not enough focus on it. Because I agree with Graham's point that she is naturally cold because she doesn't want to be involved in that. I can even get on board with after, like, oh, he's just saved her life or she's just saved his life on the train. Let's kiss. I get that. I'm on board with that. But then she's telling him that she loves him, and then he's quitting quitting MI6, and that's where I struggle with. It's the writing of what they're expecting you to believe more than anything.
I do think it's like a whole act of this film is missing, or there should have been more in between that, so that maybe the train sequence, they could have gone back to England and then something happened there, and then or it ended without all of that. And of course, it's all wrapped up quickly, isn't it? I mean, maybe it was because they were slightly worried if Daniel didn't want to do any more and they wanted an ending for him. But I don't know. The problem is when you do that ending, which is a slightly, it's not. I don't think it's a definitive ending. I don't think there's anything that's saying, oh, Bond is definitely retiring, because of course he can come back. It's what he does. But if you're going to do another one, it at least means, right, we do probably have to answer, because if like John said, it'd have been a nice dalliance along the way, then No Time to Die completely changes, doesn't it? The whole thing falls away in a sense in terms of the daughter and all that. It's taking. I mean, it is. If you go through it again, Bond is in love with Mr. White's daughter, and he's the stepbrother of the other main villain, Blofeld. I mean, there's no way when Casino Royale was being made, after Casino Royale came out, that anyone would have said, "Are you having a laugh?" What they would have done, wouldn't they? Let's be honest. But it is what it is, and like you say, Madeleine, I do think she's involved in the action, like Sam says. That's a good scene on the train, and yeah, I don't think it's a case of, oh, I could never buy that Bond would be with her. It's more how quickly it's done, isn't it? It's like there's something missing. John, we actually haven't mentioned Monica Bellucci, and I just it's another thing, isn't it? It's when she was cast.
Yeah,
obviously she's an absolute babe, but the other thing was, finally somebody who's a bit older, and it got a lot of praise for that.
Yeah.
But again, it's really good when she's on the screen. It's just not. I just want to see more of her.
I'm sorry for your loss.
You knew my husband?
All too briefly.
What do you do?
Life insurance.
A little late for that.
For your husband, yes. But what about you?
Me?
I hear the life expectancy of some widows can be very short.
How can you talk like this? Can't you see I'm grieving?
No.
It depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
She's in one scene and she's brilliant in that scene. The sign of a good cast. Casting leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
So she'll be in that Dr. Kaufman, Riziki Boss kind of thing, that they're in one scene and they do it really, really well. And that's. But when you have got an actress as good as Monica Bellucci, yeah, of course you'd want to see her more as well.
And we didn't know. We thought maybe she'd be the main Bond girl, didn't we? We thought Bond might end up with her when we were going into it. I did.
Did you? I don't know. I don't know what I thought. I honestly don't know what I thought with it all. I like that she's like caught up in the Spectre aspect, that she's the wife, that kind of kept woman.
Good.
I like that. I could want to see more of her, but in some ways, maybe her story outran its course. You know, with Felix, he contacted Felix, got her out of the country, and maybe that is the end to her story. Like,
Leaving your number?
I've called an American friend of mine, Felix. He'll contact his embassy, get you out of here. You'll be safe.
Don't go, James. If you go there, you're crossing over to a place where there is no mercy.
I have to go. Buona fortuna, Donna Lucia.
but I'd rather be sat here wanting more of her than saying she was on too much. That's the other way of looking at it, I guess.
I'm sure many people would want more of, well, the obvious joke.
It was in such a good position after Skyfall. Really liked the ending of Skyfall, and the amazing good that the film had done for the Bond world and for the country. And there was a real embracing of the James Bond franchise. So when Spectre came around, we were in a really good position. The title and the rights to Spectre were reclaimed, which is great. And the announcement of a great cast as well, with some really eye-catching names. And Sam Mendes returning to direct with Thomas Newman. Those returning people, that's always a nice touch, that they've got more story to tell, that they want to do more and build on what they've done in the last film. All the signs are pretty positive, even just from the announcement. And going into the film, I thought the pre-title sequence was really strong, a proper action set piece. There's obviously the one shot. I'm not as interested in that part. That I find that quite distracting, but everything after, with the helicopter, the pursuit, the fight, absolutely brilliant, really impressive. So a really strong start for me with that pre-title sequence. And then it goes into the main titles with Sam Smith's song. And now the song, I remember first hearing it and not liking it initially. Not necessarily brave, it's not necessarily very creative, but I do now kind of like it. When I hear it, it takes me to Spectre. It's got that identity about it, and I like the way that it gets used in the film too, which is great. Other positives that you notice almost immediately are those locations like Mexico in the start, but then going on to like Rome, some snow settings in Austria. It's nice to see Daniel Craig in the snow. It's always good to see a Bond in a location or a climate that you've not seen them yet. So that was great. And at the same time, Bond's relations with the likes of Q improving and the character of Q becoming just that little bit more likeable after his introduction. Positive. You do see things develop. You've got those people back like Q, and it just feels a bit more like Bond. And on the other side, the flip side is that you've also got a henchman. You've got Hinks, which is set up nicely, and a return to maybe physical strength, an opponent to Bond that's going to have to end up in a fight. And that's something that was perhaps missing from Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, that you're going to get a fight with a henchman who's a physical, foreboding presence. When it comes to actual Spectre itself, the organisation, the setup of that is brilliant. The mystique in that meeting that Bond's spying on, it's a real mood set. It does get you excited about the villain, although in the back of your head, there's this dual identity of Oberhausen and Blofeld that you never quite understand, because from the start, it was pretty much known that Christoph Waltz had been cast as Blofeld. The film is called Spectre, so everyone was in on it. So the mystique part is a bit strange, but the presence of Spectre and the presence of Blofeld in those early stages of the film is really, really good. And going against that, we've got Daniel Craig in a good mood. He looks happy to be Bond. Perhaps the happiest he's ever been to be Bond, which is great. More up for joking. So you've got all these things being set up for a real Bond adventure that feels familiar like the old ones, which is great. I'd say, though, it's about a third into the film that you just start to notice perhaps that the pace of it, of the story, of the film, of the experience actually quite slow. You start to notice that, and you're starting to notice deliberate pauses so that you're supposed to kind of appreciate cinematography. They want you to absorb the costume and the like Daniel Craig's latest GQ look, like it's a photo shoot. And all those things are great. We like cinematography, we like great costumes, we want Bond to look good, but going through all the Bond films, it's never been a distraction. You don't notice yourself noticing it. Whereas I feel in Spectre, it really stops to force it, to make you notice stuff. And for me, that's a mistake. And as well as the pace slowing down, it's at that point you realise that nothing particularly interesting has happened with the music. Thomas Newman's back, but the music is not very standout or unspectacular, which is perhaps similar to how I find the Skyfall soundtrack. So, in fact, it's almost track for track like Skyfall. So there's nothing new on the music front. You also have the introduction of Madeleine, and she's connected to the plot of the previous films in that she's the daughter of Mr. White. And in that, it makes, to me, it feels like Madeleine is introduced as someone who's a lot younger than Bond, and Craig's Bond is there to protect her and to save her. And I kind of think the film deserves some credit in a strange way, that by the end of the film, you're completely disregarding this age difference between the two, because I think Craig's looking older than obviously he has in previous Bonds, and she's introduced as a younger woman and she looks younger. So credit to the film that it makes you completely overlook the age difference for me. As in, it's a clever trick, whether it's right or not. But yeah, it's nice that there are these noticeable decisions to make it feel more like a Bond film than the previous three. You've got things like romance on the train, Bond dressed up in that white tux, which is just a hallmark for Bond, which is great. And that leads to a great fight, the fight with henchmen that's been promised with Hinks, which is a really good fight. And then you've got little things like Bond joking with that mouse. And things that matter to me that I love is like the villain having a lair. About halfway through the film, Bond, or perhaps past that, Bond goes to Blofeld's lair, and that's great. That's a whole new side of the Craig era that we've not seen before. But as Bond closes in on Oberhausen, or as Blofeld closes in on Bond, the story just becomes absolutely preposterous. And there are storylines and events in this film that are really daft, really basic, and similar to what you'd expect in a soap opera. The most obvious one that we'll all know about is the reveal that the world's supervillain Blofeld is the stepbrother of the world's leading spy, James Bond. They are stepbrothers, and it just so happens that they're pitted against each other. I mean, it is nuts. People reference and liken it to Austin Powers, but it's just, I can't believe that they went there. After all the great position they got themselves in after Skyfall, I can't believe that they just did this, and also that they used up all their lives with Blofeld and threw it all in this film. Throughout the Bond franchise, there are moments where you're supposed to suspend belief, where the unbelievable things happen, and it's out of this world at times, but this is the story, this is preposterous, and where I can forgive things that happen in other films, it's really difficult to forgive it when the film carries on in this slow, supposedly pensive mood where it thinks it's doing something really quite impressive, almost trying to convince you that it's written by anything other than children. So anyway, Blofeld reveals himself to Bond. He injects Bond's brain with a serum that supposedly meant to lose all his faculties, but for some reason Bond feels no effects. And just moments after that, style is preferred over substance with this great explosion that they've got rigged, record-breaking explosion, but they managed to somehow make it underwhelming, which again is staggering. And then the film comes to a climax. Sadly, the film's exciting locations from the start of the film kind of dry up to being back in Britain for the second film, running in London for the final third. So that's a bit of a shame. And in London, Blofeld's got all these traps set up for Bond, almost in the style of Jigsaw from the Saw films. And at the same time, he's revealing himself as the author of all Bond's pain. He actually seems to be the printer of all Bond's foes, because we see photocopies of previous villains dotted around, and it's just a rushed way to try and make us believe that Blofeld is everywhere, Blofeld's undefeatable, but it ruins the films that have gone before. It leaves a real taint on them, and it's nonsense that he's undefeatable and everywhere, because moments later Bond can just shoot him down in his helicopter using his pistol. And then you see Blofeld crawling across the bridge, absolutely helplessly, crawling away from Bond. And, you know, it's another climax in the Craig films where the villain is just crawling away from him, desperate to survive. And I don't know if we're meant to get shivers down our spine when we see that Blofeld's got a scar down his face, but that's what Donald Pleasence has in You Only Live Twice. But I don't know what the link is there. I mean, make it make sense. Anyway, Bond is then seen walking away into the sunset, having quit his job, and he wants to pursue a life with Madeleine. And just a few films after they put all that great work into creating not just Vesper, but the ghost of Vesper, suddenly he's met someone new, a younger woman, and that's that. It's not a good ending, and it obviously wasn't impactful enough for Craig, so he came back for one more, where he went one better, and he didn't just end Bond's career, ended Bond's life in the next one, even though he always wanted to do that since Casino Royale, which maybe is nonsense. Anyway, the funny thing is, though, with Spectre, when you've not seen it for a while, you suddenly then find yourself remembering all the good in Spectre and the real sense of Craig's era turning a corner, where in Spectre they felt a bit prouder to be making a Bond adventure like the old ones. You know, you've got Blofeld back, you've got Bond having a good time. So you stick it in the DVD player and you give it a go. Sadly, each and every time I watch it, I come to the same conclusion of just being staggered by the story choices, underwhelmed by the second half, and bored after the first third, bored. And being bored in a Bond film, even with all these absolutely outrageous story ideas, being bored for me is a real cardinal sin of a Bond film. So I want to like it, I always go in wanting to like it, but I always end up underwhelmed, mystified, and bored, which is really sad. Anyway, those are my thoughts. That's how I see it. I know there are people who love Spectre, and that is brilliant. There are people who are big fans of this film, and it means a lot to them. And absolutely, even within our really 007 group, our thoughts are varied, and there's so much to find in it that's positive. I know that, and they are worthy of praise as well. So yeah, however we each take it, that's my view on Spectre. And, you know, to be 10 years on, wow, that's quite frightening. I hope you've enjoyed this anniversary and talking about it and thinking about it, and I hope it prompts us to watch it again and appreciate it even more than we do already at this stage.
So Spectre hitting 10 years old is really amazing, actually. And I also find it really quite sad, because since in that decade, we've literally had this film, Spectre, and one other film, and that's it for 10 years. So it's kind of damning, you know, that Spectre's now 10 years old, and we are where we are, or where we have been, because it's all changed, obviously, isn't it? But Spectre is, I think it's either this or Quantum are my favourite Craig movies. So I look back on it really quite fondly, and it's, for me, I'm really, really enjoying it all the way through. Production values are incredible. I think this is arguably as comfortable in the role as Daniel Craig has ever looked. And that's not a sideways diss or anything like that. That's just, I feel like there was that swagger and sparkle and a bit of humour in this one. Although I do think the high point of his incarnation was Skyfall, in terms of him as Bond. But then, yeah, the action, you know, is spectacular throughout. It's got Hinks, who's a great henchman. It's got a great array of talent, both on the screen, behind the camera. You know, it's got everything going for it. I was so desperately excited with the idea of seeing Blofeld come back. And that really is, I'll be very honest, my big drawback to all this is when Blofeld comes in and he's handled in this way, and the character of Blofeld and their relationship, his relationship with Bond, is handled this way. It feels like, and it will probably always feel like, a glaring misstep and a glaring missed opportunity, given how beloved the Blofeld character has been at other times in the franchise. But I don't let that spoil what I enjoy out of Spectre, which is, you could just go on, like, great pre-title sequence, globe-trotting locations and destinations, which I always love in Bond. It's shot beautifully, and Bond is he's sort of globe-trotting and having fun, and I love that. I love that in Bond movies. So no, I look at Spectre with quite a bit of fondness, given certainly given what's gone after that. So. Yeah, I remember I didn't watch it at the time at the cinema, and watched it on we had a special sort of like watching of it at home with my father-in-law and brother-in-law, and we had a really good time with it. It was really good. So no, I'm just excited about the future of Bond, really, and the fact that we've had one movie in 10 years is really, really sad. When we could have, if this were the 70s, we'd be talking about 5 movies, or the 80s, 5 movies. So, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. Anyway, Spectre at 10. Gosh, I'm getting old. Depression.
Well, hello, really 007 guys. I talk to you today from Issos Beach in Corfu, which you might not be able to recognise is where Bond walks along the surf with the ill-fated Liesel in For Your Eyes Only. It's a lot busier now than it was then. I think they must have shot it early in the morning. But anyway, I've had a great time here in Corfu, and I've met up with Rob Redfern, and we've been to various Bond locations, but unfortunately he couldn't get to this one, but here I am. Memories of Spectre is why we're here. Well, my thought about Spectre is that it was high anticipation after Skyfall, but unfortunately it didn't live up to it really. I think the story was not great with Blofeld, and it had some unfortunate story elements to it, I think, but and it wasted Christoph Waltz as Blofeld as well. But anyway, I have one anecdote to tell you, which is that when I was working at the time of Spectre coming out, I was sitting on a train, and behind me on the train were 2 women, and they were talking about what they were doing that weekend, and one of them said, "Oh, I'm going to go and see that film, that Spectrum." I resisted all urges not to turn around with my best Alan Partridge and tell them to stop getting Bond wrong, and I let it go. Probably best for me. But on the whole, Spectre was okay, but not the best, and hopefully we'll see a new Bond and a new high in the next coming year. See you guys.
Yeah, but most of the helicopter crash was done in the 007 stage, the actual crash.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, we rigged up an overhead rail, and they built a replica of the Westminster Bridge. Is it Westminster?
I think so, yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's Westminster because they had the Tower of London for the Big Ben. They built a replica in the 007 stage, and we built an overhead track and crashed the helicopter in the studio. So really, the big thing up in the Thames was the noise of the helicopter flying up at night.
The Guinness record biggest explosion inspector as well. And
yeah.
I'd love you to tell us about that, because there was a big publicity about that when that came out.
This is definitely going to be a big Bond moment. 24 charges, each of which are a kilogram of high explosive.
All one shot. Come up the stairs. Line of dialogue. Largest explosion in the history of movies. Exit frame. Cut.
And the shot of Daniel and Leia in front of the explosion is very, very synonymous with the whole film, to be honest. So we'd love to hear about filming that.
Let's go home.
Well, I've had so much grief about that Guinness Book of Records thing, I can't tell you. I must have had 10 phone calls of other effects guys ringing me up saying, well, I did have been one on that. I did have been one on that. I really didn't have much to do with the whole Guinness Book of Records thing. That was production who got jumped onto that. I've never seen the bloody certificate, so I wasn't even at the awarding ceremony when they gave it to them. I think Michael and Barbara were there. But
yeah,
I mean, that whole sequence, we knew that we had to blow up the baddies layer, and the visual effects people kept coming up with these pre-visualizations where you see the explosion and all the ground caves away and you see all this underground complex. And Sam wasn't quite buying into it. And I said, what do you think, Sam? He said, well, it's not Bond. It's not, this is not Bond. It's a different film, but it's not Bond. So I just said to Sam, I said, look, Sam, I think if it ticks your boat, I think I can do a great explosion out in the desert, and I think you'll love it. So well, let's do that then. And that's what we did. We just rigged up a huge explosion. The great thing was, an explosion like that, which is a one-off, the tendency is to put about 12 cameras on it and cut, high, low, close in, whatever. But Sam said, no, I'm going to shoot this with one camera or two, one as a safety from the same position. And we had Daniel and Leia in the foreground, and then it just all erupted. But there was a bit of a funny story because there was 300 separate explosions in there. One initiated this, which initiated that. So we used a new computerized detonator system, which instead of running one wire to each one, you just run one wire all the way around, and then you program the computer to say, right, you will go off at 0.4 seconds into the run. You'll go off at 0.8 seconds into the run. So each detonator knew exactly what timescale it was going off, which was great. Saved us a lot of wiring, whatever, and certainly cut down on the potential for misfires. But the downside to it was that when you press the button, on the switch box, it took 3 seconds for all these detonators to talk to each other and say, well, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. So I had to say to Daniel, look, Daniel, no pressure or anything, but halfway through your last 9, I'm going to be pressing this button. So don't mess up the second part of your line. So he looked at me and said, you're shitting me, are you? I said, no, I'm serious. So anyhow, we rehearsed it lots of times. Not with the big explosion, but we put a little firecracker off to the side and he would do it. And it worked out really good. I mean, the thing I'm gutted about was that part of the deal was that we had to, any explosives that we had left over, we had to destroy before we left Morocco. And I'm a bit gutted that I didn't have it in the background as the last explosion, because that last explosion where we got rid of all the stuff was twice as big as the one that we did in the film.
Whoa.
So if I'd have put that in the background, it would have been something else. There'd have been no dispute.
The consensus seems to be there's so much good in it, but maybe a few things just that's why people don't rate it as highly. And I can actually tell you in our Bond WhatsApp group, we did put a poll out of where people would have it in the rankings. So not the actual number, but top 5, top 10, mid-table, bottom 10 or bottom 5. And you probably won't be surprised that 3/4 had it in the bottom half. But again, some of them have got to be in the bottom half, haven't they? That doesn't necessarily mean you don't like it. I think more tellingly, though, only 2 people put it in the top 10. And I think probably, Sam, you were one of them, weren't you? So it's Yeah, or maybe you won't, maybe not.
No,
It doesn't mean you
no,
don't.
it's
Yeah.
I enjoy the film, but no, I did get a few comments when I did say I'll be here to defend Spectre. I did get a few comments on the WhatsApp saying, "What, you can defend Spectre?" That made me laugh. But no, even then, even though we're here to celebrate, I don't know if it will be in the top 10. But I don't
Yeah.
think it's a bad film. I think we've all said it's what we want to see from a classic Bond film. The three things we've just been talking about, the characters, it's all going down to the writing, to the missed
Yeah.
opportunities. They've got like Leah Sadu is a fantastic actress as well. She's done a few Wes Anderson things that we've seen. She's great in them. So it's the writing, Christoph Waltz, it's the writing, but the film it's got humor, it's got action, it's got the locations. If I was to describe it, I would, and I wrote this down because I thought it was quite a good point.
Good.
It feels like Sunday afternoon Bond film.
Yeah.
You know, when
That's
they're
right.
on ITV and you think, oh, there's a Roger Moore on. It's Sunday afternoon, of course, or a Bank Holiday Monday. That's what we all grew up with. Bank Holiday Monday, Roger Moore was on the telly. There was always something like that. It feels like that sort of film. You don't need to think too much into the plot, or it doesn't take itself overly too seriously, but you can dip in and out, watch it many, many times, and it's just a bit of fun. And that's what I like about it. I'd probably say out of the Daniel Craig era, I'd say it's slap bang in the middle
Yeah.
for me, but it's probably the one that I would put on the most because you can dip in and out, and it's great fun to watch.
And that goes back to being brought up with Bob, doesn't it? That's why we
Yeah,
watched them when we
Sunday
were
afternoon
kids.
Bond. Yeah,
Yeah, Matthew will agree. They're both, both Sam Mendes, even though they're quite emotional films. Obviously, with M dying at the end of Skyfall, and this all the stuff, Bond falling in love. They are real. Like if you turn them on, you're gonna watch them all the way through. They are very watchable, and Spectre is, I think.
I think his two films are the ones that are the most that they're easier to watch
Yeah,
of Daniel Craig's five, in my opinion. And like you say, yeah, I don't think they're as gr gritty in terms of the action and some of the story. That I know you
yeah,
say about M dying and those other, but I don't think they're as hard to watch as the other three, really. And yeah, I do think they were trying to make a globe-trotting adventure film that was in the traditional sort of mold. I think, as we've said in a lot of our reviews, they usually add a couple of twists all the way through. They've done that with Bond. This is the one where, or
yeah,
and I think they maybe went, having done so well to get to the end of Skyfall, and Bond is in such a good place, and then you get Spectre and you've got a cracking cast. You get the same director back, the same kind of crew. I think it's just a bit of a missed opportunity, really. And I've said some of my main criticisms, which are quite significant, but there is a lot I do like about this film, and I can understand why people really like it, and I can understand why, for some people, some members of Really 007 and some close to Really 007, it's their favourite Daniel Craig film. I do get that. I think it is a bit slow in places. Like I say, some of the writing, some of the camera filter and everything, but there is lots to enjoy. There's some good action. The pre-title sequence is fantastic. Hinks is brilliant. The train fight, absolute my favourite fight in a Daniel Craig, well, Bond film or otherwise. But yeah, I think there's so much to enjoy here, and I do think it is, as Sam says, the most. I think it is the most of his films that is a Sunday afternoon
yeah,
Bond film, which is praise. You
yeah,
maybe wouldn't
yeah.
want all your films to be like that, but certainly it's a great, that is a positive thing. So yeah, loads to enjoy, and I'm glad we're celebrating it, because often we get a bit carried away with criticizing it, and I think it's good to sometimes look at some of the really good bits that there are about it, because there are plenty.
Would it be also your third best, Craig, Math? I'm guessing.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's funny because like my frustrations with Quantum and the things I like. Almost if you mishmash this and Quantum, somehow you'd get an absolute cracker. But So be it. Yeah, it's my third favourite Craig film. Yeah.
Some of Spectre.
Same thing. Same person.
If you had a tit list, it's the only Daniel Craig film which has something that resembles a normal gun barrel at the start of the film. Personally speaking, my favourite pre-title sequence. It has a personal car for the film, exclusive to that film, not using a DBS, a DB5, not using the Volante or anything like that. It's its own personal car. It's got a physical henchman. It's got a brilliant fight. It's got brilliant locations. It's proud to be a Bond film. I think that's my thing, is that I've said this many times about the likes of Quantum of Solace. I'm not sure the director wants it to be a Bond film of the previous years. I think it's trying to be something different, potentially because it doesn't like what was there before. I think that this is very much trying to be in the fabric of classic James Bond. And I think all those things should be absolutely praised. You know, we've got a villain's layout and henchman lair, you know, a villain's lair, which is, there's so much to praise about it. And I think that that's why I, first of all, say I like this film. I really like this film and I celebrate this film. And it's possibly why I don't let the issues of the writing completely tar my view of it. On paper, it's the most damaging Bond film there is. On paper,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because it's retconning all the previous films. It's using the greatest villain of Bond history and making him his brother. On paper, it's very damaging. But I don't get angry about it because I like what I see on screen. I think it's stupid, but I don't get angry about it because I actually think that I really enjoy watching this film. Despite the ways that I've gone on about some of the character choices and stuff. I do really like it. I don't find it boring. I don't find it slow. I do find it entertaining. It is one of them films. I agree, it's a Sunday film. It's one of them films that when it's on ITV, I sit and watch.
Yeah.
It's one of them films that when it's, Spectre's on, I'll keep that on. I'm glad that there's people that love it.
Yeah.
Because whilst the Blofeld thing it's damaging, of course it is. But there's been damaging parts in other Bond films as well. And we've managed to say, no, we're going to celebrate what's great about those films. And it's about time we did that with this film as well, because there is a lot to celebrate in this film.
I was going to start, actually, the whole episode by saying 2025 is a massive year for celebrations for Bond films. So chronologically, we've had Thunderball's 60th. And whilst it's not had quite as big a thing as Goldfinger's last year, it still had a prominent anniversary. A View to a Kill has had a massive load of sort of stuff all over it, and visits and events and things, for a film that isn't critically as loved, but it actually is by the fans, isn't it?
Yes.
And then GoldenEye we've got coming up, which I think will be huge as well, and it was a massive milestone in our lives. So Spectre's like the odd one out, really, and partly because it's only 10 years old. But I think it's quite nice to just give a shining light on it, and how good that somebody like Graham loves it. Because I mean, without being funny, I would have thought if Daniel Craig was your first Bond, like if you were younger than all of us, I could understand why those kind of Bond fans would rate it so highly. But for Graham to really enjoy it, that's great.
The old man.
We're all older than Daniel Craig wasn't our first Bond, was he? That was the point I was making.
Yeah.
Yet we've now got a film that we can watch over and over again, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved the categorization of it being the Sunday film.
Yeah,
I've never thought about it in those terms, and that probably is the reason why it's always downloaded whenever I go off on my travels. I do like that. We've all said we've got certain issues with it. but they can be forgiven. And with regards to the ending, they put right what horrified me in Skyfall, with the DB5 getting blown to smithereens and then seeing it all back together, and in one piece. And I've been thinking through like the course of our conversation, we were talking about, Hinks surviving and coming back. Just how good would that scene of the DB5 driving off have been if just as he was driving off, you see Hinks leaning against the lamppost, just watching him, paying attention to where he's going. And then he's cut.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah. And the audience would have been like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have been like the Jaws coming back.
Yeah. We'll get Tom Mason to do an edit. We'll get him to whack that on, just superimposed onto the Lazenby lamppost. He could have been leaning on.
Just imagine Dave Bautista with a neck brace on. Exactly.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So many nods to the
neck brace.
Yeah.
But not gunning down Madeleine, so that's fine. Where does it lie in terms of your Craig Bond films then, Graham?
Second.
That's woo.
Yeah. Casino's been my Casino's my favourite film out of all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, out of the Craig area, that first, that second, Skyfall third.
This is where we're really now.
Yeah, well, you don't. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah. You see, No Time to Die has a number of good things for me, but I just don't ever watch the last 15 minutes anymore.
Yeah.
I just had it off there. Quantum. The only way I can really make Quantum work in my head is if I watch it straight after Casino. If it's like one big film. A number of followers have said to me about that's what they do. So I tried that, and I can understand that more. Green for me was just the weakest villain ever. Which was really shown up by sort of Daniel Craig lifting him up by his hair towards the end of the film. And I thought that's just about right. So, but yeah, Spectre has got it is the one film that I will always sort of try and grab hold of if I know I'm going to be away.
Your two favourites then. Casino Royale is really intense. That isn't a Sunday afternoon film, isn't it?
No.
It's frenetic and then it's very emotional. So it's good that because a lot of Bond fans who loved Casino Royale sometimes complain, "Oh, well, Spectre's not really. I wish it had stayed in that direction a bit more." But it's really good to hear that. Yeah, why can't Daniel Craig have different styles of Bond film? Why can't he have a Sunday afternoon one?
Yeah,
and I think he does. Yeah, again, I hadn't thought about it like that, but it is definitely the most Sunday afternoon of all of them. And yeah, it's just a bit of dialogue, isn't it, about the Blofeld?
Yeah,
it's not like there's a silly scene where something absolutely ridiculous happens physically. It's just alluding to backstory that's happened, isn't it? So it's a bit easier to get over for me.
It's also it's not helped, is it, by it really being a steal from Austin Powers?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
They always do that on films. I just don't understand why they can't do better. Sort of.
I can't believe how that storyline got past everyone without someone thinking, hang on, there's a parody film over here that's doing exactly the same thing while we're copying them.
What? Dr. Evil's not your son. I am.
You both are.
What?
I just can't believe that is, out of a film I love, that is just the one bit that I just, I could scream at producers at the time. I just don't know how they let that past.
And there doesn't seem to be any record of anyone daring to ask them. It's a bit like The Emperor's New Clothes, isn't it?
Yes, very much so.
They just can't quite, But, yes, I think it should still be more celebrated than perhaps, certainly the producers and Daniel Craig have looked back on it. I think it's a rollicking entertainment. I know some people say it's a bit saggy in places, but I don't mind that in a Bond film. I don't mind just sort of easing it out and letting things pass by a little bit slower.
The way I'm thinking and the way I'm hoping is that Spectre, as the years progress, is going to get loved the way On Her Majesty's
Whoa.
That was, when that came out, that was very, oh, it's not Connery and so on. Almost hated back in those days. And now it's revered as one of the good ones. So I'm hoping, you get to the 20th anniversary, the 30th anniversary, people will be talking about it differently. Just maybe we need another person's cut of it where Blofeld gets moved out or something.
It would make a massive difference, but I think you are right. I think 10 years is a bit too soon, isn't it? It's still, until we get a new Bond actor, and then we've had a couple of his films, then it's time to sort of look back. Oh yeah, well that was that was classic Bond, wasn't it? And we perhaps didn't appreciate it as much as we should. But yes, thank you, gents. This has been it's been almost like a healing process, hasn't it? It's good to be positive. It's good to be positive. It's harder with some films than Spectre. It's harder with other. Basically, the last one. It's so divisive. No Time to Die. I don't think this is actually a divisive Bond film. I think most people agree on its weaknesses.
Yeah.
It's just we need to make sure that everyone's a bit more positive about the good things about it, and that's what tonight's been about.
Don't get me on a celebration for Diamonds Are Forever. Oh God, I could not celebrate that one.
This is absolutely fascinating, Graham. That's unpredictable, but yeah, it's not a very Daniel Craig Bond film. I could tell you that. Yeah.
Blofeld in drag. Do you know what? I'll actually take Blofeld as his stepbrother over being Blofeld in drag.
Ian Fleming watching that, eh?
Oh.
Well, watching either. Who knows what he would have. Yeah. Deary me. But yeah, no, thanks very much, guys, for joining us. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great fun. Really enjoyed it.
And Sam, let's just watch Spectre again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Watch Long Party. Let's do it.
Matt, happy birthday, Spectre.
Happy birthday, Spectre. Yeah, 10 years old. Obviously, as you say, there are more significant milestones this year, but this 10-year anniversary of Spectre deserves to be mentioned along with the others, for sure.